afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Brew Crack with Lochran Brewing Stores. Today we have two guests on, one who you are all familiar with already. That's James Lochran, our managing director and seventh generation barley farmer here in Ireland. But what I'm most excited about today is we have Dr. Axel Göhler on from one of our favorite suppliers in Germany, Bestmalz. These guys make absolutely amazing German malts, anything from low color Pilsner, or wheat, and then some of their more unique specialty malts like Red X and Chit Malt. All some great products coming from Germany and the guys at Bestmalz. So yeah, we'll just get started here with a few questions for Dr. Göhler. First of all, Axel, do you mind if I call you Axel?
No, not at all.
Okay, perfect. I would like for our customers here in Ireland to learn a little bit more about Bestmalz, the history of the company, your history and your experience in malting. If you could just give us a little bit of the history of the company and your background.
Yes, of course. Yeah, thank you, Will, for the introduction. The company was originally started as a mill, which was in the late 19th century. And then, the company went up and down, and we had some crisis situations in Germany, obviously in Europe. And my family got involved with what used to be this mill on the southwest border of Germany and France, in the late 20s of the 20th century. So that was 1928 or 1929. And my family actually has been in the brewing business for, I think, 6 generations. So my grandfather decided to be the first one. So he was the first one who said that he wanted to get in the malting business. So he did. And he bought our first and largest malt house, which is in the southwest border. Reason being that we have some very, very good barley growing regions in the southwest. And you have to remember that the climate or the harvest region in Europe is moving from southwest to northeast. So typically the UK will be among the later regions to be harvested, whereas France and Germany, southwest of Germany, will be among the first ones. So we have all the advantages and disadvantages of being among the first ones. One of the advantages being that typically we have less rain in the more the harvest season progresses, the more rain will affect the crop. And you may, or I'm sure you know that in the UK, most maltsters have to dry the malt before they can, or the barley before then they can actually store it. Now we don't have to do that. We can take it directly from the field, and we don't have a drying routine before we put it in our storage, in our silos. So the region is very fortunate to have very good barley. In 1987, my father, which was then the second generation in the malting business, he decided to buy a second location, which was more, it's also in a very good barley growing region, but it's also logistically interesting because it's closer to the large ports, because export has always been one of the objectives. So today we are exporting almost 70% of our total production. So the location here is very important, which is one of the reasons why we invested in 2018. 19, we invested in a large new distribution center, which allows us to export now in a more or less 100% automated way, which is really nice. So all the packaging is done fully automated. I personally, as a third generation representative, I'm following up on my brother, my older brother. He was the first one to be in the company from our generation, and he did it for almost 20 years. He was very successful, had a great time. but also he decided at a certain point he wanted to do something else, and so I came in. My background is not malting, so if you have any very, very technical questions, I might have to pass. But I'm more a financial guy, so I was in the investment banking and financial sector where I got my education. However, when I joined 2014, we did change a couple of things, focus a little bit on the strategy, change a couple of things on the structure of the company, and so now we are just really gearing it more towards export. You know, more of a very focused branding, including or accompanied with a good exporting program. So that was what we did since 2014. Today, like I said, we have 70% in export. We are exporting almost globally. So we have Peru, we have South America, of course, Brazil, Argentina, but also, of course, the US is a very important market for us. And then everything going east to China and South Korea and all these markets. And of course, in the heart, Europe is key. So we still have the other 30%. I also have to mention is very large breweries in Germany and Europe. So some of the biggest and most well-known breweries in Germany, like Erdinger or Paulaner or Warsteiner or Bitburger, they are among our customers still, which is important because you know, the German breweries on that level, they have a very, very refined analytical program to control whatever they take in from the maltsters. So for us, this is a very good exercise to check our quality on the possibly one of the highest levels that there is in the world, because these companies are really professional when it comes to controlling what they buy. And so we get instant feedback. And like you said, in the last 2, 3, 4 years, we are extremely happy with the quality. It doesn't mean that we were not happy before that, but we changed a lot also in the technical team and in the quality team, and we try to make sure that everything is a little more structured and a little more oriented towards quality and innovation in our structure, and that's what we do.
That's quite an extensive history going back approaching 130 years, I guess. Pretty close.
Yes.
Now, is there a you mentioned multiple malting facilities? Is there a difference in what products are malted at each facility, or all of the products malted at both facilities?
Yeah, there is a difference. We have two. The larger batches are done in the plant, which is close to the French border, because the facilities there are larger. So, but when we're talking about larger facilities, we're still talking about very small facilities, really. So, you know, we have 60-ton germination boxes, 30 to 60-ton germination boxes, and our roaster, for instance, is really manual roasting. So we have batches of 100 kilos per batch in our roasting. So you can't compare this with the large drums. We have a very different roasting technology, and we feel that it allows us more to really control what's going on, so we can fine tune precisely to what the customers want. The biggest difference in terms of the two locations is that, like I said, the export and the packaging is done 100% in this location where I am at right now. So this is the other location, which is more in the Frankfurt region, which is a region which is logistically extremely well developed. So we get, with reasonable prices, we get to the ports, We have access to railway. We have access to road transportation. So logistically, this is a very, very good region.
That's something that that certainly helps us out whenever we're planning on collecting our loads from Bestmalz is its location near transportation networks. So we definitely
Yeah,
appreciate your location. So Bestmalz is obviously a pretty large company, especially with logistics off of multiple sites. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the team there? How many people you employ? What kind of roles people have, especially from a quality perspective? Because that's something
yeah.
as a brewer I've always been impressed with Bestmalz is the pure quality of what you guys make.
Yeah, this is one of the big differences. When I joined in 2014, we were around 43 people at that time, and many of the functions were done by 2 or 3 people. So my brother was involved in almost everything. He did the marketing, he did the finance, he did a little bit of the technical things, but I preferred to have a more structured approach, and to have one team, which is now a dedicated team of 4 people, which doesn't sound much, but it's 4 people that we didn't have at all in 2014, which is quality assurance. So we have now a quality assurance team which is doing nothing but controlling quality. And when we talk about quality, we don't mean color deviations in the malt, but we really mean the quality starting from barley intake all the way to the container when it's closed. So it's not that easy because, most of the training for the people who are coming with from one of our fine universities, when they think about quality, they think it's the malt. But it's not necessarily only the malt. Malt is obviously very important, but the labeling, for instance, in an export business, the labeling can be as crucial as the quality of the malt. I mean, the customs authorities, they will not complain about the quality of the malt. The customer will complain about the quality of the malt, but you may not even make it to the customer if you have a problem with the labeling. If information is missing, customs customs offices will just send it back, especially in Asia. And so the cost implications of this is very, very dramatic because, if you have to send back a container, you have to destroy a container. Customers is very unhappy, but also obviously it's not good for the business. So this is one part, a new team. The second team, which I find very important, is the technical assurance team, which is working with the customers to find technical solutions and to solve technical problems. So in an ideal world without COVID, we would have this team traveling around the world. And if there is an issue of whatever kind, they will be able to travel to the customer, talk to him about it. We once had an event, and we once had an issue with Stone in California, and they called us and said, "Listen, we are not happy with your Redex. Your Redex has a peated malt flavor to it." And we said, this is impossible. And they said, yes, it does. And we said, no, it can't be, because those two products are they are as far separate in our facilities as they can be. And it's virtually impossible that Redex will be connected with peat. And anyone, you are experienced with peated malt. You know that it's very hard to make a mistake and when you have the two malts. It's not easily mixed up. So we had a team traveling to California because we didn't find any other way to solve it. And these guys, when they looked at the facilities, they found out that, a lot of things going on back and forth, a lot of people moving around. And our impression was that there was nothing wrong with the malt, but it was simply that the people on the shop floor at Stone at that time, there was just a little bit of things, a lot of things going on. And so we said, listen, it's not the malt. I think something must have been mixed up in your production. Maybe they had just taken the wrong bag and they filled it in, and so it was the wrong malt. So what we did in order to come to a solution, we said, let's make a big red X cross on each big toad that we're sending you. It's a very simple thing, but we said we never want this to happen again, and it never happened again. And at that time we had Stone Pataskala Red X IPA, which was an IPA which was done specifically with Red X, and they used it up to 100%. Mitch Steele at that time was their brewmaster, and he was really excited. Used a lot of hops with it, and it was I really liked it. It was a fantastic beer, and they went nationwide with it. So they needed a lot of our malt, and we solved the problem. They were quite happy with it. Finalizing or finishing up on the structure, organizational structure, we have in each of the malt houses, we have a complete structure of mechanics. We have technical infrastructure team for technical problems. We have quality control, of course. And in order to combine the two, we have a couple of people who, or a small team of people who make sure that the interfaces work well, which is always an issue. If you have 3 locations as a small company, our 3rd location is our administration. Has always been in Heidelberg. Actually, it was my grandmother who said, I'm not going to live in the countryside. She was coming from Berlin. She was used to the big, the big life in the capital at that time. And now it's again the capital, but in between it was not the capital. And so the headquarters were always in Heidelberg. So we have these 3 locations, which is in the headquarters, we have finance, we have marketing, we have all the administrative functions. And just quickly finishing up on the service, we have one, which I think is really important, service team in Heidelberg. They're getting the orders ready. They have a very intimate knowledge of the customer, of the brewery even. They know, what are the specifics that need to be considered when it comes to labeling or when it comes to getting an order ready. Can the pallet be 700 kilos or 1 ton or 1.2 tons? Because they know very precisely what the brewery can handle and what they need. And so this team is also very important.
So for us, it's really important who we choose to supply, whose products we choose to supply. And we take a lot of time deciding whose malt we're going to sell or whose hops we're going to sell, and so on and so forth. James, if you want to jump in and talk about what went into our decision to start stocking Bestmalz and being an agent and representative for Bestmalz in Ireland.
Exposed, I guess, to Bestmalz through Country Malt Group in the States. So I was spending a little time in the States, and I saw the great job that Bestmalz and Country Malt were doing together. And at that stage, I don't think Best was really available in Ireland. So we spent a little bit of time looking at the product and trying to understand a little bit more. And it was interesting because there's a real need to use and have German malts available when you're trying to brew, be it pilsners, be it lagers, be it some of the more interesting styles of IPA that's out there at the moment. Because there's just something significantly different that you get with a German malt that you don't get with a malt made from barley grown in the UK or Ireland. That continental barley tends to have had a drier sort of an experience throughout its life, and those kind of experiences. The soil type, I think, in southwest Germany, where a lot of Axel barley is grown, is quite different to what we have here, and those characteristics lead to quite a different barley, and allows you, I think, when you're brewing, it kind of gives you that option of making a beer which is quite crisp, and you'd see that obviously a lot in traditional German styles such as pilsners, but also in wheat beers and dunkels and some of those other great German styles of beer. So we knew that we needed something to fill this niche, and when we discovered Best, really, and both the range of products that Best had, and the fact that export for them was just their day-to-day activity. Those kind of things really sealed it for me. And I think, Will, you would have shared a lot of those conversations. It really made sense that we should try and add it to the portfolio. And thankfully, Axel was generous enough to be supportive of that. We've had a little over 2 full years under our belt now, and we've been growing it reasonably well here in Ireland. And it's been great. You know, Bestmalz have been extraordinarily supportive. Anything we've asked you guys for, you've delivered, and just the quality has always been very reliable. It's always been very dependable, very reliable. You open a bag, you know what you're going to get. You open a container, you know what you're going to get. And those are that's some of the thought that went into the background as to why we asked Bestmalz if we could distribute for them.
And then from my point of view, I was really excited to bring Bestmalz on as a malt supplier for our customers. I remember brewing religiously with Bestmalz when I was a brewer in the States, buying from Country Malt Group, who we share a distributor with you guys, and our barley grown on our farm in Ireland through Country Malt Group. But I was a huge fan of Red X, of the Heidelberg Pilsner. I really don't think there is much in comparison to that super low color graininess that you get from Heidelberg Pilsner. And what that brings, like it's so light and so pale that you can brew the most beautiful crisp lager imaginable with it. But if you want to, Axel, tell us a little bit about Heidelberg Pilsner, because from our sales numbers, I think it's the hottest selling product we carry from you guys.
It's interesting that there are some regions in Asia, even in the Asian Beer Awards in 2019, Heidelberg Pilsner was one of the real hot malts, and we got some. I think that 2 of the awards were made with Heidelberg Pilsner at the what was it, Singapore, at the Singapore Beer Festival. So no, it started in Eastern Europe, because in Russia we were asked 5 or 6 years ago, we were asked, can you do a wheat malt that is in color, that is a little bit lighter in color, because apparently the people in the Eastern countries, they really like very pale wheat malts. And so we said, yeah, we can try. And we brought it down quite a bit to 2.5 EBC. And we said, okay, and they loved it. They really liked it. So we said, okay, why don't we do the same for the other, the Pilsen malt. And we tried to make a nice, very, consistently pale Pilsen malt in an EBC range that is, like you said, very pale. And yeah, I mean, it has all the qualities of our regular Pilsen, which is also still one of the best sellers. But addition to that, it's like you said, it's a very pale malt, and people they seem to get addicted to it. I mean, they just love it, and then they become really excited. I mean, brewmasters who've done a good beer with it, they are just really excited about it.
It probably wasn't intended on your part, but or on Bestmalz's part, but it fits in really nicely with the trend of hazy IPAs, and that the more pale you can get a malt, the more that haze is going to really shine through, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of what we're seeing now is people using the Heidelberg Pils either in a blend with something like a Maris Otter or a Golden Promise, or some other application in a really hop forward beer that I guess wouldn't have been a traditional German style of beer to use Pilsner malt with. So it's just fantastic how wide ranging the applications for it is. And related to that, another product that is selling like crazy is your chipped malt, which we can't seem to keep in stock right now because people love it. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the the chit malt has always been in our portfolio, but I agree that recently in some markets it has really developed very nicely. Again, for the production of it, we have a very special approach, which I'm not going to tell you. But it's interesting when you go over. I'm right here in the malt house now, and if you go over in our germination boxes, you will see that on each of the boxes we have 6 boxes for each day. We're using Lausman Street, and on each of the boxes you will find a little card, and it'll tell you, okay, this is so many days, and this is the percentage for this, and that is the percentage for that. So they control this every day, and then adjust according to the crop year, to the time when it's actually malted. So there is really a lot of manual work in it. Now, coming back to the chit malt, like we discussed earlier, it's a partly malted malt. It is specific in terms of the beta-glucans that is in the malt. I think people use it for different reasons, actually. When talking to the brewers, they have different philosophies when they use it. It's one of our, what we call functional malts. So it does serve a very specific function, and the function can depend a little bit on infrastructure of the brewery, the water that the brewery is using, and like you said, they really love it. They become constant buyers of it. Yeah.
It's been fantastic for us to be able to have that product in our portfolio, especially as the growth of hazy IPAs goes. I think brewers want a malt product that's going to help produce stable haze, and not haze that's just yeast related and drops out whenever you get the beer in a can. And the chit malts really helped a lot of people with that, and it's probably similar to your Heidelberg Pils. Probably not the original intention of the purpose of that malt, I guess.
What something else that you didn't mention yet, but our roasted malts. I was briefly mentioning the roasting technology that we're using, and this has been adapted from coffee roasting. Really, it's a what we call a fluid bed roasting systems, meaning that it's a little bit like popcorn production, and as opposed to a metal steel or a drum, we're using something where the kernels are not so much exposed directly to the steel, to the hot steel. That means the kernels get less burned, and scientifically you can prove that, if you like, by checking for the pyrrosins. Pyrrosins is what makes the malt bitter, taste bitter. And in our roasted malt, as a result of this technique that we're using, we have 50% less of these pyrrosins. So that makes the taste of the malt a lot smoother, and a lot, you don't have this astringent bitterness that you often have with roasted malts. Now, from the US, the remark came 2 years ago. They said, listen, we love the taste of it, but it's very hard to sell, because in this roasting, the look of the kernels can vary from it. I mean, it's just more heterogeneous in the look. So they said, and then of course the maltster said, listen, what do you care about the look? You grind it anyhow. And then as long as the EBC value is the EBC that you want, who cares about the look? And our customers do care about the looks. So they look at it and they want to compare it. And then you take a malt that is done in a hot steel drum, and it's just more homogeneous. So that's what we took that feedback from the customers, and we adjusted the pre-product, because our roasted malt is really a 2-step malting process. The first one is you have a ready malt, fully malted, and you take this as a pre-product for the roasting. We're not roasting with green malt. We're roasting with finished malt. And so we adjusted the quality of the pre-product and we made a different slight changes to the process, and it turns out that now we have a very smooth, very homogeneous, nice roasted malt. So if you haven't tried it, you should try either the chocolate, the best dark malt, or the best dark extra. It's going up to 1400 EBC. It's very nice
I
malt.
absolutely love the chocolate malt. It's fantastic.
Me too.
I think you touched on something really, really good there that does make Bestmalz chocolate different, is the lack of that astringency and that tannic bitterness.
Exactly.
It allows the full rounded profile of a chocolate malt to come through, which is really nice. I personally myself, I don't take to or like that really sharp astringency very much. So I appreciate the way you guys roast that stuff. So yeah, I mean, I think we're getting close to wrapping up. One thing I wanted to touch on is the Best Brew Challenge, which I know you guys have done for a few years now, which is a brewing competition for using Bestmalz. If you want to touch on that and tell us a little bit about what's going on and how our customers can enter.
Yes, sure. We started the Best Brew Challenge in 2015. And the idea was, to have a collaborative brew with hundreds of participants, to exchange views on how can you brew, what can you do, and to do this all over the world. I think in the first session we had maybe 30 participants. Next year we had almost 100, and it went up prior to COVID-19. Last year we had to stop with all the unpleasant surprises that we had due to COVID-19. But the year before, I think we had 250 participants from all over the world. So the idea is to give some basics as condition for participating. This year it's going to be that you need to take 20% of best Heidelberg wheat malt, but the rest is free. You can do whatever you like, and make a beer creation that is what you expect or what you think is best, with 20% Heidelberg wheat malt. It must be brewed according to the German Reinheitsgebot, purity law. So according to that law, you have to use at least 50% of wheat malt. It doesn't have to be best Heidelberg wheat malt, but it must be 50% wheat malt in order to qualify as a wheat beer in our German legislation. And then there's one day, which is the 25th of March, 2 p.m. German time, which is Central Eastern Time, I think. And at that time, everyone gets together and should start brewing at the same moment. So we have a website which is only for the challenge, for the brew challenge. And so if we get videos, if we get social media participation, we'll link this all together, and it's all coming together at this website. So everyone, of course, if you have one set timing, that means that in Asia, some people are ahead of time. In the US, they are after us, so they may be brewing in the middle of the night. Then we have sommelier tasting, so everyone sends in the beers. We have a group of 15 beer sommeliers, who taste the beer and try the beer with a blind testing, and afterwards they write professional evaluations, which is for most of the participants, this is the most valuable thing. Of course, they can't write 225 valuations, but for the top beers, we have them actually write a full evaluation of what they think is good, what they think may be done better, whether it's foam, whether it's a taste, whether it's the aftertaste. I mean, they really do a very good job. And then the winner is getting, we wanted to invite them to the Drink Tech in Munich. The Drink Tech was canceled this year, unfortunately, but we'll have them come to Heidelberg instead. So they will win the trip to Heidelberg, and hopefully we'll have many participants. And the date is the 25th of March. You can register. There is a www.bestbrewchallenge.com where you have all the details about the registration and how to proceed and what needs to be done.
And we'll make sure to get that thrown up on our social media and all of that this week as well.
Great.
So hopefully we can get an Irish brewer or two in on that.
Yes, exactly. We want to have Irish winner this year. We never had an Irish winner. But we always, interestingly enough, we have some of the large breweries from Germany participating, but every year we had the winner was a small brewery or even a hobby brewer. I mean, it's amazing. I'm not sure that the big guys like it, but it seems like you can do with home equipment. You can do just a fine beer, just as fine a beer as with professional equipment.
Absolutely. I think I know myself, some of the best beers I ever made were beers I made in my garage and not beers I made on a pro brewing kit. So yeah, thanks for joining us today, Axel.
Sure.
It's been fantastic catching up with you and learning a little bit more about Bestmalz and your setup, what you guys do, and your history. So yeah, thank you. Joining us. Looking forward to getting this posted on the internet so that all of our fantastic customers can check it out. So
great. Thanks a lot to you.
Yeah.